computer. There we go. Oh, there we go.
Just
Maybe
to make
people,
sure that if anybody we know, these first weeks of school can be a little crazy and you may not be able to sign on like you wish, and maybe you'd want to do this at a different time. So if you haven't been part of our group before, we will always post our webinars on our website, teachoutdoorsminnesota.org or .com, sorry.
yeah.
And very fun.
Well, Sue, they just keep coming. My goodness. Right when I
Good.
feel like, oh, this is about the time we'll get started, somebody new joins us, which is great.
Do you want to start your game?
Well, I am going to here pretty soon.
And then I'll
So-
work on admitting more people as you play.
That sounds great. So I'd like a show of hands, and those of you who just joined us, if you don't mind sharing your video, we can play games together a little bit easier if we get to see you. And it's fun. I see Lauren Cottrell is just about to join us, and I know that she plays these games as well. Hello, Lauren. Nice to see you. So what I want to do is just kind of get a show of hands here, because in a moment I'm going to ask you to turn your mute off as well and to join. But show of hands, how many of you have ever played improv games? Yeah, excellent, excellent. And what I wanted to do was, oh, I don't know.
These are super fun and open-ended and a great way to start our school year. So
yeah. And that what I wanted to do was to share just a little bit about the philosophy of improv games. And I think that you'll understand why Sue and I believe that it's a great way to start the year. Because improv is oftentimes believed to be just making stuff up on the spot. And though it may feel that way sometimes, in order to be successful at it, there are a few rules. There are actually rules to improv. And one of them is to say yes and, which I wrote over here on the board, and that's really important rule. The first thing that you need to do is say yes to the situation. Yes, this exists. And in other words, you can contribute. So the first thing is to accept the situation the way that it is, and in a positive way, say, yes, this exists, and here's more. And so it's about contributing. Throughout all that, you also need to focus. You need to focus on what's being contributed, because you want to be able to contribute with other people. And that only happens if you're actually paying attention to what the other people are contributing. But it also is important as you contribute to pay attention to who else is with you, because you want to set them up and make them appear so smart in front of everybody else. So it's not about you as the lead, it's about you as a support, and that everybody else is the lead. And so if you go into improv and think that it's about you and you're going to showboat for a moment, improv usually falls flat on its face, right? But if you go into it and you think, I'm going to make these other people so insanely successful and everybody's going to think that they're amazing and that's my job, then improv works really well. And so there's a variety of games. And the first game that I'd like to play is, I would like it if about, I don't know, maybe about 8 of us were to unmute ourselves. And so Sue and I are unmuted right now. Are there any others who would volunteer to unmute and be able to share your voice with us? I'll explain the game later, so you have to be brave. Thanks, Alan.
You bet, I'll try.
And we got Leanne. Thank you.
I'm in. All right.
Hey, Lauren, I knew I could get you in here. We have a few others. Sue, thank you, Sue.
I'll play.
All right, Sue.
Maybe one more brave soul.
I'll try, but I don't even know how to put my name up there. I'm sorry.
Tell us your
I'm
name.
Jane.
Jane, thank
Yeah.
you, Jane. That's great. So what we're going to do now is that those of us who are playing on this, we're going to ask the rest of you to go ahead and turn your video off so it's easier for us to see who's playing the game.
Ah.
Like, guess who? You flip them down or flip them up.
Yeah.
There we go. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. 7 of us going to play this game, okay? And I think that whenever you play improv games on Zoom, it's important to make sure that people know who's playing so that you can focus on that, okay? And that I have no idea what order this is, but what we're going to do is we're going to have to really pay attention to each other. And there's this lag time as well. You know this about Zoom, you know that happens. So maybe give a little bit of space, or if you feel really confident, dive in quickly because you know you can beat the lag time when you contribute. But what we're going to do is we're going to share advice to everybody who's with us and everybody who's going to be watching this, including us, advice on how to be insanely successful as a teacher during the first 2 weeks of the year. Okay. And so I'm going to start it. And what's going to happen is each of us gets to add only one word at a time. And so once you've added your word, you can't add another word until somebody else in the group adds a word. And we're going to see how this works. And so we'll see where this sentence goes. You've probably seen something like this before. And I'll start it. Always
Admit
Two.
Your
Fault.
when
you
Forget.
to
Say,
specific
Due dates.
that's it. That's it. That's it. There we go. You got it. Excellent. Excellent. So I hope everybody gets that. That's really important advice. I wonder if we could play one more sentence here. Somebody else start it.
Children.
Whenever,
Oh, just a second. Start over again.
whenever,
children
Forget.
To
go,
to
lunch
they,
should
ask
or
Permission.
to
eat
later.
I think that's it. I think that's it. So I hope somebody wrote that stuff down because that's amazing, amazing advice.
oops,
So you can be insanely successful. Thank you for participating. Hey, everybody else, bring your video back on because it's fun to see faces again. But what I'd like to do is give you a sense of this improv, that it's all about saying yes and always making sure that you're supporting other people. And I think that that's really important. So often we are all in this belief that it's about competition and that I need to take care of myself. But I think that we as teachers recognize that all of us, our students included, are better served if we're all better served. Right? And so it's not about being the lead. In fact, we as teachers probably know that sometimes our teaching gets in the way of learning, right? Oh my gosh. And so we are constantly trying to set it up so that we're not getting in the way of that learning, that we're helping people. And so I have a few improv games that I want to describe to you. But before I do that, I want to show a few books, and we'll put these on a list for you as well. So don't worry about it. 101 Improv Games for Children. This is really fun. I like this one maybe even better, which is the Second City Guide to Improv in the Classroom. Okay, so improv games for kids again. If you're really into theater and you want to be able to focus on that, theater or the arts, Viola Spolin wrote this right here, Theater Games for the Classroom. And that this it was written back in the 60s, I believe, and that a lot of these other books basically owe their existence to her and her setting this up, this teacher's handbook. There are a variety of other resources, and maybe you have played these improv games and didn't realize that they might be of value in the classroom. But one that I always start the year off with. So here at Wolf Ridge, we invite 20 graduate students to stay with us for a year and to learn. And what I always do is during improv, I start with, during that training, I start with improv. Use the wrong words there, sorry about that. And that the first game that we play now is point at a thing and call it what it is. It's as simple as that. And yet it's amazing how observant people become when they're forced to play that game. And so literally what would happen is that I put two students together and I say, go and just point at a thing and call it what it is. And so if I was to do that, I may be holding my glasses here and I would say, this is a pair of sunglasses. And my partner would say, yes, yes, that's a pair of sunglasses. I mean, look at that. Deborah's already kind of giggling, right? And I didn't really say anything funny. And yet through improv, because it's just kind of joyful and it's kind of silly, it does bring out laughter. So improv isn't about being funny. The improv turns out to be funny. Okay. And so then after I point that out, then my partner may say, hey, that's a hat. And I would go, yes, yes, that is a hat. And that's it. So we play that for a little bit. And that when I debrief that, people say, I didn't realize how many different things were around me. There we go. It's about noticing what's around us. So then the second game that I play, and I do this in 3 rounds, okay? The second game that I play is point to a thing and call it what you want your partner to point at next. Now, this is a little confusing, right? And that what would happen is that I would point at this right here, right? And we all know this is a book, and I just need to state that so that you know it. And I would say, hey, this is a hat. And my partner would say, yes, yes, that is a hat. And then they would point at this and say, this is the clouds. Yes, yes, these are clouds. You know what I'm saying? And then I would point to clouds and say, that is a tree. Yes, yes, that's a tree. And so the point is that since I want to set up my partner to be insanely successful, I want to make sure that I'm kind of paying attention to all the things that she might be paying attention to, and then also not picking things that are too hard, right? I want to make sure that I'm finding things, but through that game, you start to notice all kinds of other things too, because you as the partner, you're like, I don't know what they're going to say next. I need to pay attention here. And so you really notice. That brings me to the third one, which is super fun too. What you do then is you go total creative and you point at things and you say, this is a dinosaur. Yes, yes, that is a dinosaur. But the thing is that as you say it, the partner, you're supposed to respond in a way that seems appropriate to the thing. So I may actually get up and run away. Ah, yes, that's a dinosaur, and run away, okay? And again, what's happening is that we're starting to recognize that we can have emotional responses to the things that are around us and that we can share those things. I think that when we're just stone-faced as learners or as teachers, that things are less memorable. And I think that the more we can emotionally connect with those things, the more memorable they are. So the first game is point to a thing and call it what it is. The second one is point to it, call it what you want your partner to point at next. And the third one is call it whatever you want and then respond emotionally. Playing those 3 games, I think, is a great way to bring groups together, to enjoy each other, to be able to see the space around you in a different way, and actually to be able to notice the variety of things. I mean, imagine your classrooms, imagine the outdoors, that sometimes we think that there's virtually nothing there when in fact it's filled with diversity. We can find so many things in all these spaces once we actually open our eyes. So What I'll do is I'll make sure to type up those instructions and we'll put that on the link when this video goes there to the website. And that I'll also put the titles of these books. And that I'm just curious if, before we move on to the next thing, if any of you have any observations. Maybe you've played improv games before and want to share. Maybe you have a question that you want to ask, and that might be directed to me or just the entire group. So I want to give space. Does anybody have anything to add or ask?
Can I add something? I recently was at a quilt retreat and it was an improv class, and we had some of our own fabrics in a bin that would be passed around, and 5 other people would be working on our quilt. And so I thought I had an idea of what I wanted mine to look like, and I had the fabrics in, and then you get 20 minutes and then it's passed to the next person, and they're adding to your quilt with your fabrics, but they're also putting their own little signature fabric in. And what I realized when I got it back at the end of the day is, oh my God, this looks nothing like what I had envisioned. But that was the beauty of it, because everyone had something to contribute. And I think that it was greater than what I could have done on my own. So I think that kind of relates to this too, to teaching, don't go in with expectations. It's going to be totally different, really.
You know, and Leanne, I'm just thinking, I mean, in a classroom, you could just cut up some scraps of paper, right? And you could pass along you could write your name on it, and you could start your little quilt, piece of paper, pass it around the circle, and just with a glue stick, and they have different colors and things they could add to this.
I like
what
that
you
a
just
lot.
shared. That's an amazing piece, and to come all the way around as a class project, very meaningful. Cool.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm always interested, how do other people, do you have another suggestion? Some great, those icebreakers, those improv games. We're a community to learn together. Are you taking your kids outside yet? You maybe not yet, because you're still getting to know their names and hope they would come back inside. So what are some ways that you're building your community?
So the unfortunate thing is that I couldn't understand a thing. Yeah, I know. And it seems to me, like Lauren actually said it great. Actually, because of the way the audio was coming through, you sounded like one of the Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Shoot, it sounded like there was some really good advice there.
Yeah, your intonation and your pauses were like really powerful, but I have no idea what the words were. Same. I mean, I can interpret what you're trying to say to us right now, but I can't actually understand the words. How wild.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if you want to disconnect and then reconnect, maybe that'll clean it up. I have no idea. Bummer. I haven't experienced that yet.
Yeah. Well, Joe, Is this a good time to share a couple other activities to get us going?
I think, so are you gonna do that?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Why don't you go?
Okay. Well, everyone, I'm excited because I was a fifth grade school teacher for a long, long time. And so coming back to school, I know that this is a big, big week. And I know that we hope to get outside, and it's not realistic always to be outside right away. And so some of these games that you play, even the improv games, remember, first play them inside. It's okay. So, we want to get outside. But you need to build that trust as a community. And then those games that you just played outside, then take them to your outside spot, wherever that spot might be. Play the same games because they're like, hey, we know this game, we know how it works, and now we're in a new setting, but we're doing something I already know. And that's going to set you up for success a million times over. And I wanted to share some really, really good, easy ways to get started. My favorite way is with color, because I like a lot of color. I brought a really bright color today. And I'm going to share my screen. Hang on here. Can everybody see my screen? It says new from Jeffers, Good Sense. Yes, Joe?
Yep, absolutely. And I even
Oh.
made you bigger right now too.
Wow, that's so much fun. Well, Jeffers Foundation, if you don't know about them, they've been around for a long time, and they have really been coaching teachers. How do you get your kids to go outside? And they put together this really cool new book called Good Sense. And it's using your observation skills, and all of the senses, your 5 senses. And just by being on this, if you send Suzanne an email saying, hey, I was on there, I heard about Good Sense, she's going to send you a book for free. So I'll be sure to put her email, and maybe Joe, you can help me to put that email, or Suzanne, you're on there, put it on the chat, and be
Yeah.
sure to email her by the end of today. And she's going to send you one of these. And I'm going to share my absolute favorite one. And it's called Color Match, or I used to call it the Color Hike. And it's such an easy game to play, and it's such an easy thing that you can take it up grade levels, and you can use it with your youngest preschoolers. And therefore, I wanted to really feature it today. And basically, you can take, color chips from any of your home stores that you can grab. I have gotten like the rainbow collection of colors, and I laminated them. And that way I could take them off my ring, and I could pass them out like cards, and different students would have different cards, and they would try to see what they could find. I have seen teachers just take colored construction paper and laminate that and cut it up into a lot of little pieces and put them on rings for their kids too. I also clipboards and those brand new markers and crayons and stuff. Just divide up a piece of paper and let them color whatever colors they want to look for. And what you can do is, like right now, my background, I try to put a lot of colors back here, is what colors can you see? And they would go and try to match these different colors to something in nature. Now I'm going to share these are journal pages that came out of my Jeffers journal. Really nicely done. I taped a portion of this color wheel into my book, into my journal. And then those are actual leaves and pieces of birch bark and a seed and a pine cone that I was able to find. And on the most basic level of just matching something in nature to a color, that's basic, right? Pretty easy going. But then on the right-hand side of that is, then I was a 5th grade teacher. It's great to go out and do these things, but I need kids to write and reflect. And this is a way to start getting them writing sentences and being confident in, using images and words and what have you. And I'm not going to grade this at all, but I'm getting kids an experience out in nature. And then maybe I'd come back inside and do some writing. And this one is, I chose these coppery gold and brown colors to search for. I like these colors because they remind me of my dog. And sea salt caramels and perfectly toasted marshmallows, so things that they liked. So it's like I see something and it reminds me of. And as a 5th grade teacher, I was always trying to get the kids to go beyond just it's brown or it's cool. And so using things like sea salt caramel colored, so it's something I already tasted, But I might say the pine cone reminded me of a sea salt caramel as I broke it open, and they get this connection. And so this is a way of taking a really basic color hike and taking it up a notch. And this could even go into the improv section. Same thing. Brown bear, what do you see? The great old Bill Martin Jr. and Eric Carle. And it's just like, I forget all the animals that are in the book, but I think you guys remember it. Like the purple cat and the different things, but now it's nature, things. So you could either you go out on a color hike, or you could be sitting in a circle. And same thing, you're not ready for the kids to get way out in nature yet, but from their spot, you could say, brown bear, what did you see? And say, I saw a red leaf, blowing past me. And again, as a 5th grade teacher, I'd be asking for bigger action verbs instead of just always looking at me, but that's fine. Somebody else could just say, I see a yellow, whatever. And you could try to get all the way around the circle before you can't do it. And then you start over again. And different things like that. I've also had where they get to come in, and I just added some basic doodles. I'm not an artist, but I like to doodle. And kids get to see that too. And as a 5th grader, we often had buddies. So you can imagine maybe going on a hike later on with a buddy, and all the things that you saw with your buddy, and your 5th grader then could put together their very own version of a brown bear book for their buddy. And then together they could go back and read. So again, you are building a sense of community. You're starting to do that stamina, whether they can leave the circle and come back, whether you have to stay in the circle and just look from the circle itself, but you're looking at all these really fun things with color. And I was always a really big math nerd. I still am. So we used to go for rainbow hikes. Can you find every color of the rainbow? And we would do this every single month of the year. And different colors were way harder to find than others, as you can imagine, in the dead of winter and such. It's hard to find red, but sometimes we would do it. And so we would just do tallies. I mean, again, especially if you use something like this, they could just tally and draw a doodle or write something of what was purple or what was brown out in nature, and just would be maybe what they would be working on. And when they come back, they could make it look all nicey, and you could do the tallies and remind them to cross after 4 to make your group of 5 and whatnot. You can make it into a bar graph. And then what I love too is that, especially as you get 3rd grade on up, it's fractional part of a whole. So if you want to do fractions, you might say try to collect 12 items, because then if it's 2, you get 2 12ths, and you can try to do 1/6. Or if you're trying to do like percentages, you can try to collect 20 or 25 different objects in all, and then what percentage was a red one, and so on and so forth. So you've really added a mathematical skill to something that is a rainbow hike. And I'll tell you, my 5th graders still love going out and just looking for colors. It was an easy one. They didn't know what I was going to ask them to do with the colors afterwards always. But that made kind of the fun of it too. And we were looking for the rainbow hike, and sometimes you ran into something super duper oddball, like maybe it was a nest or something, some scat that totally, kids have to look at scat forever, it seems. And we called it, what was your pot of gold? And that's another one that you can come back after any kind of hike. And especially when I used my rainbow hike, I'd say, so what was your pot of gold? And they love sharing what they saw in those things. We talk a lot about social emotional learning, especially this year. And I am a huge Dr. Seuss fan. And I don't know if you know this book, My Many Colored Days. It's just such a neat one. It talks about like, on the bright red days, I feel like this pony and I'm jumping around. And then on a blue day, I feel bright, believe it or not, like I have wings like a bird. But then they also talk about things like, I think it's a brown bear. Yep, a brown bear. And I feel really down. And letting kids be able to express their emotions, especially now. And if you start with something like color and you get to play with it, colors can remind us of a lot of things, and colors can remind us of emotions, and it's okay to write about these things. A place that I just really love, it's called Children in Nature Network. I'll get their website. We'll put it in our resources as well. And it's just the things that we're talking about, that nature can both improve health and well-being. And this is amazing research that they put together in infographics. So if you need to really help your administrator or your families understand your why are you going outside? Well, it can improve, health and well-being, and also can really help the academic outdoors. And so if you're really thinking thoughtful and mindful of your schedule, knowing going outside before coming back in for something that might be tough for my fifth graders, they didn't like writing usually. And they came back with kind of a spark and were more ready for a writing lesson. So I did a lot of writing after we had been outside, because I just found that I could garner that focus a little bit more. I'm going to pause there for a moment and maybe unshare here. How do I do this? Okay, there I see it. Never mind. Technical difficulties, right? Take a pause there just because I wanted to share some activities of what would be easy and things to kick off your year pretty well, and if there was any questions about that. How many have done color hikes or something like that before? Yeah, I see a lot of hands. I just love it. Anybody else want to share a way that they've used their color hikes that maybe I haven't touched on yet? I like to learn.
Something that I've done is if my students go on a color hike, they collect really colorful, wonderful things, and then we'll use those to make nature art. So ephemeral art pieces that they can leave outside with their colorful pieces, and somebody else can find them and enjoy them.
Lauren, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That is fun, and they just kind of blow away eventually, but it sure is fun to leave them there for somebody else to spot.
2 years ago, I taught second grade, and when we had to shift to DL, I glommed on to Wolf Ridge's online resources and had the children do the earthworks activities, making art out of things that they could find in nature. And they all had their iPads, so they could, even from home, they could make their art, they could take a picture of it, we could share with each other. It was super awesome. So that's one thing we've done.
Thanks, Alan. That's great. And again, since I was always trying to push the writing, making a creation like that, it can be a character of a book or a short story or even a paragraph. If you've ever seen The Leaf Man, how Lois Ehlert, is that her name? She makes this leaf character. It's so amazing that goes on this adventure, and I've read that one too. And then, that character of nature art becomes then something that goes on an adventure. And again, it's just giving those kids a springboard to work with. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm hearing about Dr. Seuss and some of his racist, yes. What's nice is this book, I don't believe it's all about characters, and you got to look at it for yourself, but hopefully we don't ban all of Dr. Seuss's books. I understand. Time has changed. Yep. Oh, well, I have another request. I am going to get you all organized or part of it. I'm putting in the chat as a Jamboard, and I'll share my Jamboard here. We're gonna, let's see, share. If you can jump onto the Jamboard and share with us, what are some topics you want to explore this year? Because we know it might be another wild and crazy ride. And how can we here at Teach Outdoors Minnesota best support you and what you want to do with your students? So if you're new to Jamboard, you come over to the sideboard on the left and you grab like a sticky note, or I click on a sticky note. And I want to learn about leaves, let's just say, I don't know. And you can tell me what about leaves or anything. And it's just going to go up there and we can move them around and we can kind of group them or what have you. But we'd like to hear from you what you want to learn about, because the best way we can imagine being supportive is hopefully we're on target for what you want to, what we can do together. Joe, maybe you want to add to that? No.
I'm sorry. So,
Yes.
throughout the rest of this year, what we want to do is make sure that we highlight what you want, and then also we may ask that you help us to make some of these presentations as well. Last year, as we were doing some of the sessions, it was super fun to watch so many different people join us, and so we may be calling on some of you as well. Also, Suzanne, could you put the name of the guide in the chat to make sure that we
sorry.
have the right name?
Good sense.
It's good sense.
It's
I
just
had to
simple as that.
go help Paul real quick, so.
Excellent.
I love it. And what we're hoping to do too, just so all of you know, we're going to be really looking at the newer science or the new science standards that are being adopted. And so I see phenology and looking at phenology and how things change. That is just such a great way to launch so much of our curiosity. Citizen science, yes. Yes, phenology. I love it. And the rocks and soils, isn't that, it's always a tough one. I love seeing these things.
And as you're typing these, for those of you who didn't know or maybe weren't with us last week on Wednesday, we started with John Olson and Pete Cleary going over the new Minnesota Science Standards and ways that we can teach outdoors and do environmental education while also attending to the science standards. And that the next session is going to be next Wednesday. And it's going to build off of that, and that we hope that then that just becomes a theme throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I love this one of identifying things and leading down that path of careful observation and understanding what's, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once. What's similar, what's different, and really, I was out on a hike with my family members today, and we were in the prairie and looking at some plants we didn't know, but what did we know? We could observe the leaves. How were the leaves looking? And we knew later we could look it up in a field guide. But yeah, looking for like, what are those pieces? Yeah, that social emotional learning. It's just going to be a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. And Anna has put into the chat. Anna Dukey, yay, you should probably unmute yourself, girl. If you want CEUs from Hamlin for attending today, you just complete this form, and we will have this at every one of our Wednesday webinars as well. Hamlin's been so gracious to work with us and granting CEUs for all of you. Earth material. Yes, I'm just putting some together. Scary things in nature, yes. Ooh, yes, nature bathing for social emotional. We'll have to put all these together, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're gonna have so many good ideas. But see, you get to create your own adventure. If you've ever read those books where you could like switch chapters as to which adventure you wanted to go on, we're going to try to put you in the driver's seat, and you're going to be creating your own adventure. If anybody wants to be unmuted and just kind of share anything more, that's fine too. We're pretty small group, and it's fun to hear people's voices.
I feel kind of like an idiot because I don't really know how to do these sticky notes and stuff, but anybody who wants to talk about bugs and snakes and things, for 20 years, my husband and I brought mostly spiders and snakes, but I mean, other things out to classrooms and all around. And I'm a good resource for bugs, snakes and things like that. And usually it's the adults. It's when we would have exhibits or the presentations, the adults were like, "Oh, don't go up there," because we had live bugs that you'd hold and things. And it was always like, just step to the back, because the kids always came up. They always loved it. So if anybody wants to talk about bugs, arthropods, you can give me a call.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. I think about oftentimes we pick topics that have such broad appeal, but sometimes it's really powerful to go narrow and to go deep into that as well. So thanks for offering that. That is something that would be really interesting.
Ooh, who wrote this one? This is cool. Do we want to create affinity groups for different ages? Can you tell me more about that? I love that.
This is Luann.
Hi, Luann.
And I was looking for my unmute while I was in the other screen. Yeah, I guess I heard, I'm early childhood and I saw some people saying younger students. So I just didn't know, like, even like those books on the improv, like when I said what ages, all ages, but I was wondering if the books were geared to like age 8 to 15 or, pre-K. I guess I'm really interested in like, pre-K, K, first grade, that.
Right.
And I didn't know.
No, this is good feedback in things that we could consider, even having some breakout rooms more often where there'd be more that affinity groups. Thank you for letting us think about that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I love the idea, like if someone did bugs, right? And then we got
Right.
in breakout rooms and we said, okay, how can we use bugs in pre-K 1 and 2 or whatever?
I like it. Thanks
Okay.
for bringing up that idea. I don't know if I can promise it every time, but I love thinking that way.
Okay.
Right?
No, that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that based on what you had just suggested, when I send the titles of these books, I'll write a couple sentences about them as well that might capture some of that context about what were the books designed for, what grades, for example. That sounds, thank you. Oh, check out this one. Right on the front, it says book for ages 5 and up. There you go. So this is one that might be interesting, right?
Right. And there are definitely ways that we can do this. So that's great. And I love this, how to convince administration that outdoors is needed. And that's where that Children in Nature Network is amazing. If you go down some of their research articles and just sharing some of those infographics and stuff, it's amazing because it is well researched. And so those statistics are right there. And even just that small ask, can I go out once a week? Can I go out for a part of a morning or, and just share that, I'm ready to go outside. It's a safe place to be. And really my first times going outside, we were just pretty darn close to the building. I wasn't very far away, but we were still outside. And there was something about that fresh air and a change of pace. It's magical in my opinion.
It's my experience that the principal kind of sets the mood on that. I mean, I had a principal that let me go outside all the time. We had a pond, we could do microscopes with the pond water and everything. And then there's other principals, they don't like it at all. You kind of have to get past that administrative okay. That's just my experience.
Yeah. And another way to do it is just be bold and ask them to come out with you.
I feel blessed. I started here the same year as our new principal, and she is all for going outside. What I have
Nice.
found interesting are other teachers who are like, oh, pss, 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 Lund's going outside again. Pss, 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 pss. They're just going out there to horse around, and we're not. I agree with you 100%. The kids, it's just a completely different child outside versus inside. And yeah, I'll never stop taking them outside.
And who ends up being a leader outside versus who is more of the leader inside? Always was a surprise to me. I loved it.
Absolutely. Confident kids in the classroom sometimes shy away outside, and the kids who are quiet inside sometimes just really put themselves out there, and it's fantastic.
Outside noise, sorry. Well, everyone, do we need to put in Suzanne's email one more time? Did you get that? And ooh, I like this one too. The Minnesota Phonology Network. That's a great one. Joe, do you want to share some more about that?
Well, I know that Peter Harris, who works at Wolf Ridge, has been involved with that quite a bit, and that we've had a variety of people come here, and I just feel like we might have some experts that we can draw from to be able to lead some sessions. So I want to write some notes, and I thought I'm just going to type them in here. Yeah, John Latimer was here just a couple weeks ago, and he's actually who I was thinking of, Helen.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely work on all of this. I know it's a little bit shorter today. Maybe that's okay, huh?
Mhm. Yeah. So to everybody who is here, our goal as we move forward is to occasionally join a little bit earlier if people want to join and just be able to share their ideas with each other and have a little more open sharing, and then also stay on just a little bit later to stay here for those people who want to still have conversations. You know, the concept of, hey, I was trying this and I just couldn't make it work. I wonder if anybody has an idea. Those kind of conversations. And that Sue and I don't pretend to know any of the answers, but we think if we can lure all of you here every single time, you will have the answers. So that's kind of our goal. So in a sense, joining a half an hour early, in other words, 3:30, and staying a little bit late. So all the way through to 5:30 potentially. So that's just one of the ideas that we've had, and we'll see how that works out. Sweet.
Good. Yeah, and hopefully it'll be a way that all of you can connect with one another. That would be really fun. So
Yep.
Thank you again for sharing all of your ideas, especially on this very, very hectic first week back. Maybe it's second week back for some of you, what have you. We feel so blessed that you come and join us and we talk about this, and we know that we're so passionate that nature and being outdoors is so important for kids and their development.
Sweet. So have a great evening and a great rest of the week here. And that I know that Sue and I are going to hang on here in case anybody wanted to chat about something.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.